Council will be in order. Council will be in order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Walsh. Present. Councillor Fenton. Present. Councillor Perez.
Present.
Present. Councillor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councillor Govan.
Present.
Present. Councillor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councillor Brown. Present. Councillor Hurst.
Present.
Present. Councillor Click Bruce. Absent. Councillor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councillor Curran. Absent. Councillor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councillor Letterman.
Present. Will council and guests please rise and join us in a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can all be seated. I also want to recognize Councilor-elect Jose Delgado is with us. Welcome, Councilor-elect. And before we proceed, let the record reflect that Councilor Perez is participating in the proceedings remotely. Are there any reports of committee? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met at 5:30 today, went over the items on the agenda, most of the first items on the first page. Had a good meeting. Councilor Govan was there, Councilor Fenton was there, and myself and several members of the administration. And we went through all the items. I'm sure they'll get talked about a little bit in a few minutes, but we went through all the items, and Councilor Govan made a motion to approve the items. I seconded it. So we are coming to this meeting with a report of approval from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it was Wednesday, the ARPA subcommittee met, and we discussed the household applications, the $1,400 payments. In attendance were Councilors Govan and Allen, and I'm not sure, I think you guys were the only two. And we talked about the household applications, and they're almost at their completed stage. There's about 200 more applications that have to be reviewed. So individuals should be checking their emails to see if they have gotten a decline status or an approval status. Out of 19,000 applications, a little under 9,000 were approved. So I'm right now getting call after call after call after call after email after text message after Facebook inbox message about the declined folks that are struggling, because in the middle of the application changed. Originally, you didn't have to have a benefit like WIC, food stamps, Medicaid, any of that stuff, Medicare. All you need to do was live in a qualified census tract. However, that changed without notification to the public, even to the city council. That rule changed. I still have the application, so I know it for a fact. Councilor Hurst and I and Councilor Govan have been working on ARPA applications since the inception, since before any application ever came out. We were on the committees to review the applications, so I know exactly what was in the applications. And so now folks have been denied because they don't have any of those benefits. However, they live in a qualified census tract. This is a problem. This is an issue for me. I will be doing a press conference about it, because those that are still most disproportionately impacted, those that really need these funds, especially during this time of the year, will not get them. That's not the only change that had been made midway. Originally, folks were getting checks and then all of a sudden they started getting debit cards. And the issue with the debit cards is to withdraw the funds from the debit card, it's a $3.50 fee that is not highlighted enough where you can go to avoid that fee. But there shouldn't be a fee. If people need $1,400, they can't afford to lose $3.50 per transaction. That's something that should have been thought through and considered. And then my last point is going to be the customer service has been atrocious. Even when I called, not knowing that I was a city councilor, it was just really bad. So I had to name drop who I am, call back with my mother, because my mother was one of those seniors that really needed this benefit, and so many other seniors and folks, low income, moderate income folks that need this money. I had to name drop who I am, so I can only imagine what folks with no title are getting. All of this is absurd. All of this should never have taken place, and it was not well thought out. And I want an audit done on the whole process. I want an audit done on the consultants, because this cannot continue to happen in this administration. One thing that I said that I did blame the city council on is that we should have never, and I think you said it best, and you always say it, Council President, is that we should not give permission for all the money to be in the hands of the administration all at once. We need to give them a little bit of it at a time, see how they do, and then approve a little bit more. And you say it every time. I'm not trying to take your thunder, so I'm giving you that credit. But that is what I plan to vote for in the future. There will never be a large sum of money that come through the door that I would approve, just like I will not approve another budget that have tax increases. I will not. Property tax increases. And so I will conclude my report by saying there should be an audit of the whole ARPA distribution process.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any further reports of committee? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Earth's Affairs Committee met back in 12/11 to discuss particularly three programs that could benefit senior citizens with the property taxes. We recall that a couple of weeks ago, we had testimony from many people here in the City Council very concerned with the property taxes, how it's going to impact them. We met with the assessors. In that meeting was assessors, I believe Tim Allen, Councilor Allen was present, Councilor Whitfield was present, Councilor Govan was present, and myself. Also acting CAFO, Pat Burns was present, and Deputy CAFO, Lindsay, was present. We talked about three programs. One of them is abatement program, which could give seniors up to $1,000 in credit towards the property taxes. There's also for those in blind who have eye impairment, they could get a benefit or a reduction of $437 towards the property taxes. We also talked about the circuit breaker, Mr. President, which is available to those that are 65 or over. The Deputy CAFO brought up a good idea of possibly bringing interns from the colleges to help us encourage seniors to file their taxes, because even though they may not have to file the taxes, that allows them to qualify for the $1,000 credit. And finally, Mr. President, we talked about a senior tax work-off program. That took a lot of discussion. In a nutshell, Mr. President, this program was first created in 2019. However, it's not up and running. Apparently, there has been issues with COVID-19, the strain that was put on the department. There's also staff shortages, and they have a program to start in July 1st of 2024. They are going to do 20 people participate as a pilot program. There was several discussions about that. I personally feel, Mr. President, that they can do more than 20 people, maybe 50, who knows, maybe more. I think that can be more. Also, on that, Mr. President, they're going to be coming up with applications, and we specifically made a point that they are made available not only in English and Spanish, sir, but also in Vietnamese, which is the third major ethnic group here in the city. So in total, Mr. President, That's $3,000 that a senior that qualifies could benefit from, eventually, virtually wiping out their property taxes. The average property tax here in the city is over $3,000. So that's the report, Mr. President. I do look forward, sir, and I have to say that I am going to be watching the development on the senior tax work-off program, because that needs to be up and running now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Are there any further reports of committee? Seeing none, before we call the roll on accepting the reports, I do want to recognize Councilor-elect Brian Santinello is present virtually. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on accepting the committee reports.
On acceptance of the reports of committee, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce. Absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran. Absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The reports are accepted. Madam Clerk, please call the first item.
The first item is an informational item, confirmation of the appointment of Walter Kroll to the Historical Commission.
I know Commissioner Kroll is present. Commissioner, if you can join us at the podium. And the floor is yours to address the council relative to your appointment.
Good evening. I had the pleasure of meeting most of you here. Been in McKnight for 27 years, been in the same house on Dartmouth Street for 25 years. Have done multiple redevelopments of Victorians. I live in a Victorian, so I've kind of done the work. Very familiar with development of the houses, and hopefully can share that information with people on the Historic Commission. And actually, I've been an alternate since July of 2019. I've made every meeting but one, so this is really an appointment to have a real seat.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Are there any questions for Mr. Kroll on his appointment? Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is more of a statement. When it comes to individuals in Ward 4, we're kind of secluded. A lot of people don't come in our area, but Walter Crowe is an icon. He's been around forever. I've talked to him numerous of times. When it comes to fighting for the community, he's called me. I still owe you a call back. He called me a couple of days, was it yesterday? But when it comes to any issue, Walter Crowe is there. I can assure you, when I first got elected, he wasn't on my side, but through working and collaborating with each other, we eventually became great working friends. He's probably one of the hardest working people that I know. I know that he's a friend, a supporter of mine. A lot of times people don't understand how I truly have no competition come election time. When you have people like Walter Crowe, you have the community. Walter Crowe is Ward 4, and not just Ward 4, Walter Crowe is Springfield. He's the ideal where we embody as far as helping. I can tell you hours upon hours upon hours upon hours how this man actually helps. So I'm in full support, great individual, and thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. I don't know, though, that one absence is a sticking point for me.
I apologize.
Is there any further deliberation amongst members of the body? Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Hi, Mr. Kroll. Are you already working in this capacity?
I've been an alternate since July of 2019.
That's all I want to know. This is a no-brainer. You do great work in the
Thank you.
community. You've done great work with the neighborhood council, and we would be really foolish to not have you do that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield and Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to echo what my colleagues have said, that Walter is not only dedicated to his area, but the entire city, and contacts all of us when there is an issue affecting his area. And he did a very nice job yesterday recognizing our late colleague, Henry Twiggs, along with you, Mr. President. Your words there were so thoughtful for Henry, and Karen really appreciated them. But I know you'll do great work on the Historic Commission, and I'm very happy to support your appointment.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Any further deliberation amongst the council? Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Walter Kroll is seen all around, and even if you don't live in the neighborhood that he lives in, as I don't, he's seen everywhere, and always conscientious, always interested in improving the city, and also seems to be an expert on historic preservation. So we've got great housing in Springfield. We need people who care about it to help preserve that housing. So I support this nomination.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Are there any further deliberation? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to say, Mr. President, that I agree with my colleagues, and I have to say, when I think of Springfield and Springfield people, Walter, you are definitely one of those people that come to mind, because you are always active, and your niche has been the preservation side, the historical side, which is so important to keep what I call the soul of the city. Change is good, but we cannot lose who we are. And through preserving our historical stocks, through preserving our history, not only do we reaffirm who we are as people, as residents of the city of Springfield, but also to remind those that are coming after us that we are Springfield. It will be a pleasure, sir, voting for you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further deliberation amongst the council prior to our vote? Seeing none, I don't normally speak on business before the council while presiding, but this is my last meeting, and there's not much you guys can do to me. So I'd be remiss if I did not voice my support for Mr. Kroll assuming the full commissioner spot, and certainly for the last 15 years, I've known Walter Kroll as one of the most steadfast public servants in the city of Springfield, and glad to see you receiving this nomination. So at this time, if there's no objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the confirmation of Walter Kroll.
On the confirmation of Walter Kroll, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Absolutely.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce, absent. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The appointment is approved. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Madam Clerk, please call item 2.
Item 2 is an order authorizing the Library Department to receive and expend grant funds for East Springfield Branch Library.
Is there anyone here to speak to this item?
Yes, good evening. Molly Fogarty, Library Director. At the October 16th meeting, City Council meeting, the City Council approved our request to apply for a grant for the East Springfield Branch Library, a planning and design grant. The grant is due in May of 2024, and the awards will be announced. It's a competitive grant in September of 2024. We are now seeking council approval to accept the grant and expend any of the funds from the grant if we are awarded the grant.
Thank you, Director Fogarty. Are there any questions or deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the order.
On approval of the order, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce, absent. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk, please call item 3. Thank you, Director.
Item 3 is for the Burn JAG grant, no match required, in the amount of $164,978.
Deputy Daniel.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the JAG grant. The JAG grant is a program designed to assist states and local governments by supporting a broad range of activities to prevent and control crime and to improve the criminal justice system. The program is the leading source of federal funding for state and local jurisdictions. The grant program provides spending flexibility across various program areas, including law enforcement, crime prevention and education programs, drug treatment and enforcement, crime victim and witness initiatives, prosecution and court programs, corrections, technological improvements, and mental health programs. To address areas of training that have been identified by the police department, the grant funding will be used for the following: Babson College leadership training, $105,000. Overtime to backfill the people while they're going that training, $26,403. And technological improvements. We're getting some new radios. That's $33,575. We've been affiliated with the Babson College program for about 3 years now, and I've heard nothing but positive results. We send our lieutenants and our sergeants to this program, and they go in and it's good getting like an outside look at our department. These people are telling us things that we need to do to improve our leadership. And after they get done, they divide up into 2 groups and they do a presentation to the executives, to the deputies, and to the superintendent. And each time they come up with some amazing ideas, and a lot of times we implemented a lot of them, and we're going to be changing some policies accordingly. So this is coming from the grassroots, from our guys. They're telling us what they need to do their job better, and that's how we're looking to. So I think it's a great program. So I appreciate you guys. So yes, vote. And it's also great having everybody here. Usually I come here, it's like myself and a couple other people. This is awesome. I like the energy in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Are there any questions or deliberation amongst the council? Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank you for the work that you've done. I don't think a lot of people understand how difficult it is to be a person of color and be in law enforcement. You're an example and a role model to all us people of color. I want people to truly understand, though, a lot of times when it comes to the police, we need de-escalation. People who really, truly know how to de-escalate a situation when it comes to people who have sag and swag, with their pants sagging, and just regular kids. You know how to hang, you know how to deal with them. You know how to talk properly. You know how to interact. But sometimes when you get behind closed doors and it's just the cops and you and the individuals, is sometimes their interaction isn't too friendly. Okay? I just had an incident myself not long ago. And I think that we do a good job. But I think we also have to, the school, I agree with I want to keep putting money in, because I know you guys need more. But I want to start maybe practicing on more spiritual and moral self-awareness training, where maybe that police officer morally is going to have a certain type of respect and see that individual for who they are. I think that's a lot of times where the disconnect between the community and the police. The community doesn't realize that you guys are just regular some of you, God-fearing family members and things like that. I know you. I know you're a great man. But we have to be able to now bring back those days when they had the mounted police with my dad and the community together. We have to learn how to have that cop not be so militant when they're interacting with the community. So I would just, that's kind of like one thing I always would love to see, more of a de-escalation, desensitizing the actual police and letting them kind of understand how to pace a conflictive situation. But just tell them to act like you. But I want to thank you for your work.
Can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You can talk.
So one thing we identified is, obviously it's a stressful job. We see a lot of things that people shouldn't see. We deal with a lot of things people shouldn't deal with. And eventually that obviously takes a toll on you. And sometimes maybe some of these interactions are related to that. So what we're looking at now is another program called Struggle Well. They teach you how to do the job, but they don't teach you how to act after you've done your job. How to deal with your stress, how to deal with your inner demons and stuff. And we're starting this program now. It's a 5-day program, and that's another one. We just started up. Everybody goes to it. They love it, and you can just see it changing, And I went to it, and I was blown away. It's based off a military program where they're helping people deal with stress, but now we're trying to get that out there with our department. As far as de-escalation training, I'm part of the academy, and that's right in our curriculum. Everybody, when they come through that door now, we beat everything that has to do with use of force starts with de-escalation. Obviously, you know, try to de-escalate every time you can, but sometimes you don't have that opportunity. You know, a person's got to go home to their family and stuff. But we're definitely working on it when we realize that's a concern.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that I do appreciate the JAG grant and the funding and the way it's being used in the leadership training. It would be beneficial if we could sometimes go to those meetings and see what they get out of the training as well.
Call me. I said when they do their presentation, that'd be a good time.
Yeah.
To see them. You see these guys. They sound like college professors putting things together for you. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive group of guys going through it. The instructors are amazing.
And I'm just really happy to see that you guys are putting in more de-escalation tools like the Ebola wrap and things like that. We just approved the funding for that not too long ago. And then we had a presentation of it on the C3 meeting. So I'm really glad to see how that works. And definitely will support the JAG grant. I'm just glad it didn't say suppression, because that was going to set me off.
I know. I've been here before.
Thank you, Deputy Rupert.
Been here before.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any further questions or further deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the grant.
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh. Yes. Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted. Madam
Thank you.
Clerk. Thank you, Deputy. Madam Clerk, please call item 4.
Item 4 is for FY24 Council on Aging grant increase, no match required, in the amount of $74,934.
Deputy Caffa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO, 80 Tamarack Drive in Springfield. This is an increase for our Council on Aging grant. It's just under $75,000, bringing the total award for FY24 up to $428,000. And the Council on Aging grant supports the programs in the senior centers throughout Springfield.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Are there any questions or deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the grant.
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted. The next two items are grants under $50,000. They can be taken together and with no debate if there's no objection. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please read both items 5 and 6.
Item 5 is for an FY24 Cultural Investment Portfolio Grant for the amount of $20,000, no match required. Item 6 is for the FY24 Support and Incentive Grant increase, no match required, in the amount of $17,407.
And if there's no objection, please call the roll on acceptance.
On acceptance of the grants, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Sorry.
Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grants are accepted. Madam Clerk, please call item 7.
Item 7 is an Elder Affairs donation in the amount of $150.
Madam Deputy.
Thank you. This is a $150 donation in memory of Delia Shea from Sheila and Thomas Hurley and Judy and Paul Lemieux, and these funds are designated for the Hungry Hill Senior Center.
Thank you, Deputy Caffo. Are there any questions? Seeing none, without objection, please call the roll on accepting the grant, or accepting the donation.
On accepting the donation, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
yes,
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The donation is accepted. Please let the donor know they have the gratitude of the Springfield City Council. Madam Clerk, please call item 8.
Item 8 is a transfer for FY23 certified free cash to the opioid settlement fund in the amount of $1,521,535.
Deputy Caffo.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been discussed with you all before. This is, Governor Healy signed the supplemental budget December 4th, which allowed an exemption to general fund revenue and opioid settlement money going to an opioid settlement fund. So we've talked about that in the past, so this is finally happening. That being said, we did bring in $1.5 million into the general fund last year, which was opioid settlement money. So our intention is to, now that that money is in free cash, move that money from free cash over to the new opioid fund so it can be used for its intention in that fund.
Thank you, Deputy Caffo. Are there any questions from the council or deliberation amongst members? Councilor Hurst.
What is this specifically used for? Do we know?
Yes, so I don't know everything specifically, but we have announced already a couple costs that we were expecting, and I have those here. So the fire department implemented 2 TAC units, the intention of which those would eventually go into the opioid fund. The Department of Health and Human Services is getting a transportation van for the same reason, for the same intention. And then the police department got additional Narcan training, additional Narcan materials, equipment, and all of those things, totaling about $400,000 so far, have been identified.
I'll defer to the rest of my colleagues since I'm not going to be here next year, but my thought process is that this should probably go to committee until, unless there's an absolute need for it to be approved now, until we know exactly where the money is going. But I'll defer to my colleagues.
I make a motion to send it to committee.
I mean,
Counselor-
Lindsay, unless you know where the rest of the money, I mean, you said 400, you had accounted for 400,000.
Correct, that's been identified. We
looking at
haven't
1.5.
identified $1.5 million worth of expenses at this point.
Yeah, there's no way I would personally approve it until I know exactly where the 1.5 is going. But
There's a motion on the floor. The motion is to send this to the Finance Committee. We're going to take a vote at the end of this meeting to continue any and all unfinished business to the new session. So the vote would be in order. So if the motion stands, if there's a second, it can proceed. Seeing no second, we'll return to, the vote's been seconded. On the motion to refer the item to committee, Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to ask a question to the Deputy Caffo. Is that appropriate or just
Yes.
a motion? Thank you. Lindsay, good evening.
Hi.
Good to see you. Lindsay, I know we talked about this before, and I know you said that we haven't identified all the use. I get
Correct.
that, but I'm a little shocked to hear that part of that is going to be 2 TAC units for the fire department. I mean, I don't expect you to sit here and tell us how 2 TAC units is going to help with the opioid crisis. I think that's more, honestly, for the commissioner to be here and explain that. For those at home and here in the audience that don't know what a TAC unit is, it's an important piece of vehicle that the fire department uses to respond to 911s. I get it. But I don't know exactly how that's going to help the opioid crisis, for one. The other one that I think you mentioned was a van for the Elders Affairs Department, which I'm all for, But how is that, in the name of God, going to help with the opioid crisis? I don't know. So one of the things I've always done, I vote responsibly. The money has to be used. And honestly, Lindsay, I think that the people that want to do this should come here and explain to us. I know you're kind enough to come here and present it, and I thank you for that. But I agree with my colleagues. I feel uncomfortable voting on this until I exactly know what it's going to be used for, who's going to be charged of what, because look here, $1.5 million, it's a lot of money. So, Lizzie, I thank you, I really do. And so, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to support this motion to committee because it just does not make sense, and I want to hear from those who are going to be managing that, how in the name of God they extend to use it. And may I finish with this, Mr. President? There's an increase of overdose in the city. And that is to be expected in the holiday season that we're on. There's a lot of weed out there that is being laced with fentanyl. And people are just dropping to the floor. And that could kill you. So I think it's a responsible thing to do and send this to committee until we can talk about it more and figure out what the process is going to be. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. On the motion, Councilor Govan.
Mr. President, I know that we talked about this in the Finance Committee earlier, and I guess one of the questions I had was free cash being transferred to the general fund for this. Lindsay, how much settlement, how much was the settlement for the opioid fund altogether?
The total payments were $534.99.
So that's the total settlement from the opioid settlement that we got?
Those are the settlement payments we received in FY23, yes.
In FY23. Do you know what the total is going to be that we're going to be getting, or no?
We're going to continue to be getting payments expected through FY39.
Okay.
So I believe it's about $7 million total, but that number could continue to go up.
Okay, so I think considering that, then I tend to agree with Councilors Whitfield and Hurst, who made the motion to send it to committee, because I would like to know exactly what we're going to spend the money on. That's a good idea to know. So I would be in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Whitfield on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the concern that I have is that we don't know what it's going to be used for either. Opioid, gun violence, pretty much some of it can be related. People are out selling opioids, people are getting shot and killed. And so we have $1.5 million really coming from free cash, really coming from the general fund. We're going to continue to get these payments. And this is a great opportunity for us to really be creative and put some of these funds toward gun violence. We have a whole bunch of gun violence advocates here today. And I'm not just saying that because they're here. But if we could take free cash and put $1.5 million toward opioids, we could take $1.5 million of free cash and put it toward gun violence. Because we had $19 million of free cash, 17 million of it we could really use to make a difference in this community, and yet and still we come back time after time after time and we never have this discussion about sending any of this money to gun violence. I have not heard anyone from the administration come forward and say, let's put money toward gun violence. We had that little fake meeting. We had about 3 meetings and one in the summer that I went to, and then nothing. Radio silence, but the deaths continue. This is the highest we've ever had in history, and it doubled almost from what we had last year. So we need to really take some careful consideration on how we use these funds, and we really need to hold people accountable. And when I say we, I'm talking about the city council. This is our job to hold folks accountable, because like a lot of the advocates said, the folks that's dying are in my community. They are my friends' kids and my friends' relatives, and they come to me. They come to me so much that I cry. Like, I broke down and cried in front of one of the victims we were out having cocktails, and I just broke down crying because you can feel their pain. And I can't even say I empathize. And yet, there's no empathy from the administration. There's no empathy from the administration. And so we got to do better. and it's all interrelated. It's all interrelated. So let's do a good job. So I'm going to stand by the motion, and I hope other councilors will do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. On the motion, Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay, can this money be allocated to different, some of it be allocated to different organizations?
I don't know if it can be allocated to different organizations. I'm not sure on that answer right now.
Well, and a lot of times when we're talking about this type of situation, it hit me personally. When I first ran, I ran on a platform. I don't know if a lot of people in the area, they know OG Jamie Giles. He was a young, like a son to me, my nephew. He succumbed, unfortunately, to an accident of fentanyl, mistakenly. And he passed away from it. Now, he was an athlete, star, and if you go out and you look, maybe like a couple weeks ago, you would see Springfield youth football, sitting in the middle of the streets, panhandling. We got some of the greatest athletes in the world. A lot of times, we don't put our money, invest in a certain infrastructure in order to stop the opioid. Now, to me, I'm a coach, a football coach, so I'm into sports. Can we give some money to some of these teams?
I don't know the answer to that right now.
And then also, when we're talking about opioid use, a lot of times it has to do with, there is nobody of color who does not suffer from depression. Not one. And I can put my hands up, here I go. And it doesn't mean you're not functioning. Everyone should have someone where we have to start putting our money. We got a Dave Lewis. He's the only black people on the top of that hill that works with people of color to help with de-escalating a situation where they might be able to counsel them where they might not have to turn to drugs. We have Mission Inc. I see Brother Johnny. I mean, I know for the city, we do donate some money, but it's not enough. It's definitely not enough. I would like to see this money, some of it, be put in some of these organizations who are impacted. And I can assure you, I said, Brother Johnny, I know, we work with him a little bit. I know David Lewis, I've seen him. These are Juanita Bachelor, I see her. I see people who, they have the programs. So a lot of times what it is, the people don't think that we have the answers. We have some of the answers, we just don't support them. We don't put the money in, put the money where our mouths are. We have individuals who I believe if all we got to do is let them, if they have some of the answers, get funding. We need to get them some funding. So I mentioned maybe a few. If you guys need a list, I can give you guys a list of a couple organizations that I know that definitely are impacted in the community. But I'd like to invest some of that money proactively before any of this stuff happens. And I also want to thank you for all the work you do. You always do a fantastic
Thank you.
job. But thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. On the motion, is there any further deliberation? Councilor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Councilor Hurst made a good point, and Councilor Whitfield's follow-up motion, I think, is a strong one. We don't know a lot about this money. We just know there's $1.5 million this year, and we don't know the parameters. We know what the mayor wants to spend the first $400,000 on. Sounded all right to me, but I'm not an expert on what it should say. So I think making a motion to committee was a good move, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Is there any further deliberation on the motion? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to refer the item to committee.
On referring the item to the Finance Committee, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The item is referred to committee. Madam Clerk, please call item 9.
Item 9 is an order approving intergovernmental agreement with UMass Medicaid processing.
Deputy.
Thank you. So, councilors, this is another intergovernmental agreement with UMass Chan Medical School for Medicaid claims processing. We're ending a 3-year contract with them, and what they do is they process Medicaid claims for our eligible Springfield public school students. And based on the revenue that comes in, which is generally about $4 to $5 million a year, they are paid a 2.5% fee for the work that they do for processing those claims.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Is there any discussion on the order? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry, Lacey, how much did you say it's the revenue?
How much is the revenue?
Yeah,
About $4 to $5 million a year.
$45 million.
425.
And how much of a fee they get?
2.5%.
45 million.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approving the agreement.
On approving the order, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call item 10.
Item 10 is order amending the Community Preservation Committee ordinance to allow holdover terms, Chapter 16, Article 20, Community Preservation Committee, Section 16-75.
This ordinance is on for second and third step. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This matter was approved for first step at a recent meeting of the council, and the purpose of it is to allow for holdover terms for members of the Community Preservation Act Committee. Currently, there's a cap on terms in office, and until a successor is appointed for those folks, to keep the committee properly functioning, I'm proposing that we allow for members who are currently serving to remain until their successor is duly appointed and qualified.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Is there any deliberation? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, Councilor Fenton, through the chair, to the presidency, could you give us a refresher how the appointments take place again?
The appointing authority, if I may, Mr. President.
Sure.
The appointing authority is not one single entity. There is a designee of the Parks Commission, a designee of the Conservation Commission, of the Housing Authority, the Council President, the Springfield Historic Preservation Trust gets an appointment, and that aggregate of appointees make up the board. And there is a limit on the number of terms that someone can serve, which is capped at 2. So there's currently some members, specifically the chair, Bob McCarroll, who, if action isn't taken, then his continued, even temporary status on the board would be jeopardized without this.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you for that explanation, Councilor Fenton. That's what I was wondering, if this was more directed towards individuals that we wanted to keep on the CPA, because we all know what a great job they do working with all the neighborhood councils, and they impact the entire city. But what if somebody like Bob McCarroll wants to stay longer? Can he do that? Because to me, he's the face of it.
Councilor Fenton.
Well, when we talked about this last time, I did mention that this is the first phase of what I'm proposing to do. I thought that this proposal tonight would be really non-controversial. It's just allowing people who are already there to remain until someone comes in place. And my hope is that we can pass this tonight so that the board can remain effective without causing into legal question their actions. But it is my intention in early 2024 to eliminate the term limits altogether, because personally, I feel that that has not worked out the way that it was originally intended when I wrote the first draft of this. And I think that there are some members that we'd like to see continue to volunteer and serve the city in that capacity. So, but with that said, I acknowledge that there might be some members who feel differently about that and might be in favor of term limits. So in the interest of getting this housekeeping item addressed before the end of the year, I put this current version on with the intent of coming with that second phase in '24.
Thank you. I plan to support it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you, Councilor Fenton. I just had, I know we talked about this last time. So say like someone like Mrs. Gagnon, she's already put away, but she's fantastic. Now, is there something we can put into place where we can bring some of those people who've already aged out, but they've done such a great job and they're waiting in the, now they might want to come back? Is there a way where that can happen? If I may address him, Mr. President.
Councilor Fenton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Brown, the short answer is that yes, if we take that second step in 2024 to eliminate the term limits altogether, then people could come back to the board as volunteers who previously served and who were termed out. But the current proposal here does not propose to do that, candidly, because we're getting close to the end of the year and I didn't want to kick up a hornet's nest and I wasn't sure if people would be opposed to term limits. So I figured that this would be a good interim measure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Is there any further deliberation on the ordinance? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the ordinance.
On approval of the ordinance, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce, absent. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The ordinance passes. Is there a motion to invoke Rule 22C to allow the ordinance to pass finally tonight? Motion was made by everybody, but it's going to be, I'm going to say that it was made by Councilor Fenton and seconded by Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on invoking Rule 22C.
On invoking Rule 22C, Councilor Walsh. Yes. Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce, absent. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. 22C is invoked and the ordinance shall be considered finally passed. Madam Clerk, is there any further business properly brought before this council?
There is not.
Seeing there's no further business properly brought before this council, and this is the final meeting of the 2023 session, is there a motion to continue any and all unfinished business to the next legislative session?
So moved.
Motion was made by Councilor Govan. It was seconded by Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to continue any and all unfinished business to the 2024 session.
On continuing business, Councilor Walsh. Yes. Yes, Councilor Fenton. Yes. Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce, absent. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the motion passes. At this time, we'll enter an informal caucus to elect President and Vice President of the City Council for the 2024 legislative session. As Councilor Hurst and I will not be continuing in the 2024 legislative session, we will not be participating in this process, but I will invite Councilor-elect Delgado to come forward behind the bar and take Councilor Click Bruce's seat. And Councilor-elect Brian Santinello is participating virtually. And at this time, I will hand that process over to our City Clerk, Gladys Oyola Lopez.
Good evening. This evening, councilors can nominate a candidate for the office of City Council Vice President with a proper second. Once nominations are closed, I will proceed to take a roll call vote of the body. Councilors are asked to vote by giving the name of the candidate of their choosing. The candidate that receives the majority vote will be deemed the Vice President of the City Council for the 2024 legislative and calendar year. I'm officially opening up the floor to accept nominations for Vice President of the City Council. Do I hear a nomination? Councilor Brown?
I nominate Melvin Edwards.
Councilor Brown nominates Melvin Edwards. Seconded. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Allen. Are there any other nominations?
Yes. I have some words that I want to say with this nomination.
Councilor Whitfield, the nomination.
I want to, first of all, thank everybody in the audience that came out to support Councilor Govan and myself for Vice President and President of the City Council. Thank you all for that. So first and foremost, I'm not here to call out any of my colleagues, but I'm here to discuss a very divisive process on how the City Council President and Vice President is selected. I stand here today because I think it's important to educate the community on how the governmental process works. I stand here today because I think it's important to challenge the status quo and traditions, and I stand here today to advocate for what I believe in. Therefore, at the appropriate time, I will nominate myself, and I think Councilor Govan will too, for Springfield City Council. And right now, I'm nominating City Councilor Zeta Govan for Vice President. People may be confused as to why I'm doing this right now, because I don't have the votes to win. But by the end of my speech, you will understand why. There are councilors who stated that they first supported me in this accomplishment, but that they changed their mind because of traditions. There are councilors who said they felt bullied by people I'm affiliated, so they're voting for my opponent. There are councilors who said that they thought I would do a great job, but they had to vote for their friends of origin, nationality, race, that type of stuff. And there are councilors who encouraged me not to run for the seat because I didn't have enough votes to win. And when they didn't have enough votes to win in the past, they conceded. But for me, that's unacceptable, and that's a no. I choose to stand strong in my decisions, and I'm running anyway. In consideration of the audience and those watching the meeting online, I will present the presidency election and vice presidency election process, the tradition. Historically, the city councils vying for the president and vice president seat sometimes start early in the year to obtain 7 votes, committed votes, and in a behind-the-scenes process. Some employ tactics such as promising councilors that if they commit to them, they will get the most popular subcommittee chair roles. And on the flip side, punish councilors who do not support them in their candidacy with the least popular subcommittee chair roles, or they don't get any at all. And I'm saying that's some. I'm not saying that everybody does that. On occasion, they present false claims to have received 7 votes necessary to gain the seats, when in reality, they did not. The next step in the process is to try to persuade the entire council to vote unanimously in order to portray a unified front in the community. And I personally have no idea why. We don't always agree on topics. We don't always see eye to eye. And we certainly do not always vote in unison. So why is this so important that we pretend to be unified now? The entire process, which is supposed to bring people together in unity, is deceptive. It produces tension. It produces division. It's emotionally draining, and it's a very disturbing process. There are many times that new councilors are put in a position before they even sat in one meeting to make a decision on who they're going to vote for vice president and president. They have not had a chance to hear from those interested in running to determine, based on their own observations, who will make a good president and vice president. This actually happened to me as a newly elected councilor. That is why I decided to speak up and speak out, so this may be prevented from happening in the future. I don't know how near the future, but hopefully in the future. I think the process should be fair and equitable. Following traditions can pose a risk to equity and inclusion of those traditions, and those traditions perpetuate discriminatory practices or exclude certain groups. In this case, it feels to me women of color are being excluded. Therefore, it's important for us to assess whether traditions align with values and actively promote diversity and equity to ensure that we are participating in an inclusive environment. In closing, me throwing my hat in the ring isn't about the position or even the title. I'm going to do the work without the title. But it is about principle. I'm throwing my hat in the ring, and also Councilor Govan's, to challenge the status quo and traditions that promote conflict. I'm throwing my hat in the ring, and Councilor Govan's, because I know we're qualified. But this position will only help us grow into better leaders. I've heard it's an administrative position, but we need to have that administrative knowledge so that we can serve all of you better. I'm throwing our hat in the ring to empower young women sitting in the audience, my granddaughter, my daughter, and others. And all people who follow me to stand up for what they believe in, even if it means that you're standing alone. For us, it's together, it's two of us, and even if it's the unpopular thing to do. And finally, I'm throwing my hat in the ring because by doing this, I've already won. Again, I know all of you got to go home and get into bed, so I want to thank you for coming out and supporting a couple of minority women that has been doing this work in the community for a very long time. Thank you for coming out and standing up for us. Thank you for letting us know that we are not alone in this fight. With or without a title, with or without backdoor deals, with or without scheming, we won. Thank you.
Councilor Whitfield, would you like to formally?
I formally nominate Councilor Zeta Govan for Vice President of the City Council.
Are there, at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any other nominations. I say again, for the third time, are there any other nominations for Vice President for the City Council for the 2024 legislative session?
I want to nominate Melvin Edwards for Vice President.
Thanks, Councilor Perez. His nomination was seconded by you.
Okay, I haven't problem with my computer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hearing none, I'm going to call for a voice vote. So I'd like to remind each of the councilors, as I say your name, you're going to vote by saying the name of the candidate. Councilor Walsh.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor Fenton.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor Perez.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor Whitfield.
Zeta Govan.
Zeta Govan. Councilor Allen.
What you doing her?
Are you going to ask me?
Oh, Councilor Govan.
Yeah, Councilor.
Zeta Govan.
Zeta Govan. Councilor Allen.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor Brown.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor-elect Delgado.
Zaida Govan.
Zaida Govan. Councilor Cruz absent. Councilor Edwards.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor Curran absent. Councilor Davila.
Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. Councilor-elect Santinello. Is he still on?
He's muted, Gladys.
Councilor Santinello?
Melvin Edwards. Melvin Edwards.
Melvin Edwards. I declare City Councilor Melvin Edwards has received sufficient votes to be elected as City Council Vice President for the legislative term of 2024. At this time, I would like to give Councilor Edwards the floor if he so chooses to speak.
I'd like to first say thank you. Thank God first for this honor. I want to thank my colleagues who supported me, and I appreciate and respect those who did not. I'm not exactly sure how to respond to everything that was said tonight in this chamber, but I understand that we are a house divided. We all don't look at things through the same lens. I am who I am, and I am certainly not everybody's cup of tea. I am an ace. Fair enough. This should be a very happy and proud moment for me. As many of you may be aware, that I have been had the honor to serve on this council with 3 of my colleagues in this chamber since the start of ward representation. I've always taken my job and the oath to serve serious. I was taught many years ago, you don't chase money, you chase service to others, and you will be satisfied. I may not be at the Stone Soul Picnic. I may not be at the Harambe or any other place where you need somebody with dancing skills, because I can't dance. I'm a black man that has no rhythm. I don't drink. I don't smoke weed anymore. And there's many other things that my mother would not be proud and happy to me do. But what I do is do work. Most people, and I say particularly in this chamber, don't know what I have done or what I've been involved with doing over my time on the council.
I ask the members of the audience to please give Councilor Edwards the respect that he deserves.
I won't try to refute any of the comments that have been made. I will, at some point, very shortly, attempt to straighten the record out on a couple of issues. But right now, I'll just simply say that I'm very proud for this opportunity to serve. I have some more comments I'm going to make in a few minutes, but I don't feel like I need and should have to defend my record of service, nor should I try to please everyone in this chamber or everyone who might be listening. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of my first wife, I'm proud of my second wife, and I'm proud of my 6 children, regardless of the shade in which they look. The God I serve doesn't care what we look like, and in fact, I do love every shade of people that God placed upon this earth. So if that is a reason for me to be criticized, then I can't do much about that. But I am proud to be a member of the City Council. People can decide whether I'm worthy of this seat by their own choices. I cast no dispersions on any of my colleagues. I'm honored to serve. My number is out there. I'm always available to try to help people, and I commonly have said to people, I'm never the smartest person you're having a conversation with, but I will always do my best to not give bad advice, and I always pray before I speak. So I hope that my words will resonate, that I am honored to serve, and I'm very appreciative, and I look forward to this House being less divided in 2024. Thank you.
Having duly elected a president for the 2024 legislative session, I will now open up the floor to accept nominations for president of the City Council for the 2024 legislative session.
Madam Clerk.
Councilor Edwards.
It's my great pleasure to put forth the name of our president for 2024. At the start, as I mentioned earlier, ward representation came about. There are 4 councilors here that have been here since that began, and it's been an honor to be described as one of the 3 amigos, as the matriarch of the council is Councilor Walsh. But the three amigos are myself, my colleague Tim Allen, and attorney Michael Fenton. I wanted to clarify a few things because there's a lot of misinformation out there about how Michael Fenton earned the right to be the president moving forward. Some of you remember or may not be aware that approximately 3 years ago, there was 3 men of color who were competing to be president. And it was in this very chamber at that meeting where I saw or thought and perceived a lack of integrity being executed and a sabotaging of what had been the tradition of how we elect our president, and I withdrew. That counselor has resigned and been replaced by President Letterman, and has moved on and enjoying his life. But let me say that I believe that in part of the early shortness of his service was in part because of how he was treated and how difficult it was to do this job as the president. I want to further say that the gentleman who, there's a perception out there that I could not have been president or had enough votes to be president this term. Let me assure you, whether you're my critic or you're one of my supporters, if I had wanted to be president of the council this year, I have built the types of relationships within this chamber where I would have had the votes to do so. It was my choice to not seek the presidency and to put forth the name of Michael Fenton to be my president next year for this 24 calendar year. I do that without reservation. I do that because he is competent, because I've served with him for 14 years. I've watched and I know his integrity. I don't expect perfection from anyone, but I will say that the position is harder than it looks like from this side of the chamber. Because of my personal relationship with the present president, I know how often he's had to be on the phone, how many times he's had to take calls, how many times he's had to show up, and how many times he's had to try to organize these meetings so that they ran smoothly. We went through COVID, and when we came back into the chamber, there wasn't a whole lot of counselors that were meeting with the people from Focus Springfield, people from the administration, people in City Hall, to make sure that people at home could see what was going on. It's a lot harder than what people think it is, and I'm not casting dispersions on anybody else's aspirations of being president. But just like approximately 10, 11 years ago, I was offered an opportunity to be a contributing writer to the very newspaper that chose to call me an Uncle Tom and question. So let me just simply say, I'm not the president because of choice. I didn't write in that paper out of choice. And anything else that I do in my life, it is my choice. So with that being said, it is my honor and pleasure to support Michael Fenton, attorney, to lead us city council in 2024. And I would hope and pray that my colleagues would see the value of supporting and nominating and seconding this nomination and voting for him, and then standing next to him in support of everything that he must endure as our president. Thank you.
Seconded by Councilor Brown. Are there any other nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate my colleague, Councilor Whitfield, and I wanted to comment on the process that she talked about. When I became a counselor 2 years ago, this is going into my second term, the same thing happened. The process she talked about happened, right? And people came to me and asked me if I would support them to be president in the next year. I was a brand new counselor. I didn't know what was going on. I went to my mentor and asked him what I should do. And he basically said, well, just tell him you'll think about it. And that's what I did. what I learned in the city council in these last 2 years is that when we walk through those chamber doors, we come in here thinking about how we're going to vote, right? We say, well, I think I might vote this way on this item, or I might vote this way on that item, but we don't make a decision until we've heard all the evidence or all the testimony. So the process that Councilor Whitfield talked about is exactly what it is. It's a concerted effort by certain counselors. I remember last year, I think, Councilor Davila actually came to me and asked me about him being the president the following year. And Councilor Whitfield, I think, talked to me about that last year as well. And, you know, when I think about what we're doing here, this is about justice, right? We see the community here. We see 3-4 weeks ago at another meeting, we heard testimony from 11 residents who are having issues with their property taxes. And that's what I'm dealing with. That's what I deal with when I come in these chambers. That's who I think about when I think about how we're going to move forward. At this time, in this day and age, I agree with Councilor Whitfield. You know, it is time for us to be equitable, to be diverse, and to have leadership that is representative of our community. I know that Councilor Fenton will make a great president because he's a great guy from what I know. I don't know him that well, but from what I know, he's a great guy. I have nothing against him, just like I have nothing against Councilor Edwards. But I think, you know, we need to be able to talk about how our city council represents our city and looks like our city. There are more women here than men. So why can't we have a woman in leadership, right? And when I thought about, you know, how the backroom deals are made, right? It's the status quo, right? And we're thinking about, oh, well, we have to make it seem like we're united, right? We are a united council. I don't care how we don't vote or we do vote for each other or whatever each other thinks. I think we are united because we're able to work together no matter what, right? We're able to come to terms. We're able to listen to each other. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, you know. Women in leadership positions, historically, as we know, you know, we hit a ceiling, right? We hit that glass ceiling. And women of color, especially more so. So at this time, I think that it is time. I know that Councilor Whitfield doesn't always use her diplomacy. And I blame, you know, maybe my mentor and my longtime friend, Miss Dora Robinson, who is recently passed. She taught me diplomacy. And that's why I'm able to sit in this room with all of us with difference of opinion, different backgrounds, and I'm able to kind of like keep my cool. Councilor Whitfield, we're working on that. Yes, we are. But you know what? She truly cares about the community. You know, I care about the community. Thank you. And that's not to say that the other counselors don't. You know, I'm not saying that they don't. But I know that the work I've done in this city for the last 30 years, right, has been community-oriented. I have been on the street. I have been knocking on doors way before being a city councilor. And Councilor Whitfield has done the same. So I would urge you to consider, right, if you were walked in here making a decision made, you are able to change your mind and to decide to vote another way. You know, I think it's time that we stop doing things the way we've always done them, because that always just leaves us what we've always gotten. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So at this time, I urge all of us to stop living in the insanity of the past and move forward. You know, regardless of how we vote here today, I know that on January 1st, we're going to be able to work together. We're going to be working for the community, working for the city. I'm hoping that maybe some of our counselors' eyes have been opened a little bit and that we seek justice, right? Because we recite the Pledge of Allegiance every time we open up a meeting. The last words in that pledge is liberty and justice for all. And that's why I fight for justice every day on a regular basis. Justice for all people, women, children, black, white. I just fight for justice because that's what I have to do. As a social worker, it's in my code of ethics that I have to do that. So I'm not going to stop regardless. So I gladly nominate Councilor Whitfield for president of the City Council. Thank you.
Councilor Govan nominates Councilor Tracy Whitfield for president. Are there any other nominations?
Since my name was mentioned, to reply?
You don't have to.
No. I'm sorry? I was just saying to the Madam Clerk, since my name was invoked, that I should have the right to reply. I see that the president is saying no.
Unfortunately, Councilor Davila, the process does not allow for
Okay,
rebuttal.
well, in that case, I will respect that, I will abide by that, but I wanted to answer specifically to Councilor Govan's comment, which I think were not completely forthcoming, but I will respect the process. Thank you.
Thank you. So hearing no other nominations at this time, I'm going to call a roll call vote. Councilor Walsh? Councilor Walsh? There's no time for comments at this point.
Well, there's another thing that should change.
Exactly. So that's something that maybe you can take up with the next city council president when he or she is elected.
Want to make an executive decision? I think there has to be a point made before the vote is taken about the traditions of the city council. You know, all government bodies have rules, procedures and rules, and cherish traditions. And it has been a tradition of the city council, when the vote comes for president and vice president, no matter who you want to see there, that when an individual gets to the 7 votes, that's usually how the presidency is created. And, you know, when you think about it, this whole thing, it comes down to math. It comes down to who gets the votes of their colleagues first. And the tradition has always been, and I think it should continue, that it's a united front, and we all stand behind the person that has achieved that first. That's how it goes, and I think it should continue to go that way.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. If you would like to vote for your choice for president for 2024.
Michael A. Fenton.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Letterman. Closing the nominations, I ask for your vote, Councilor Walsh.
Pardon me?
If you could repeat that.
You want me to repeat what I'm
Yes.
voting for? Your vote.
I couldn't hear
I
you.
can't hear you. My
I
hearing
couldn't hear
aid's
you.
turned
So
off.
if you could repeat the
I'm sorry,
vote,
my
Councilor
hearing aid's
Walsh.
turned off. What?
If you could repeat the name, sorry.
So I vote twice, that helps?
Well, we couldn't hear. You have to get closer to the microphone, I think.
Michael A. Fenton.
Michael A. Fenton. Councilor Fenton.
Michael A. Fenton.
Michael A. Fenton. Councilor Perez.
Michael L. Fenton.
Michael Fenton. Councilor Whitfield.
In my untraditional, undiplomatic way, Tracy L. Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Govan.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Allen.
Michael A. Fenton.
Michael Fenton. Councilor Brown.
Michael A. Fenton.
Michael A. Fenton. Councilor-elect Jose Delgado.
Michael A. Fenton.
Michael A. Fenton. Councilor Click Bruce absent. Councilor Edwards.
Attorney Michael A. Fenton.
Attorney Michael A. Fenton. Councilor Curran absent. Councilor Davila.
Councilor Curran votes for Michael A. Fenton.
Oh, he's here?
Councilor Curran, thank you for the vote. Counselor Davila?
Michael Fenton.
Michael Fenton. Counselor-elect Santinello?
Michael Fenton.
Michael Fenton. Having received enough votes, I declare City Councilor Michael Fenton has received sufficient votes to be elected as City Council President for the 2024 legislative season. At this time, I would give Councilor Fenton the floor to speak.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I'm going to be very brief with my remarks tonight. I know that most of you would like to leave right now, but if you wouldn't mind staying, I only have a couple of comments that I'd like to make. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you guys for coming. You really influenced the vote.
As you can see, no minority group on class. Ignorance doesn't care what color you are. Just like apparently integrity doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you to those of you who remained. I would just like to say I don't have a big speech or remarks planned for this evening. I am honored by my colleagues for choosing me for this role. I would like to say I would just like to say that I know for many of you tonight wasn't your first choice, but I will still do my best in service to the city and the city council to represent you, as the rest of us do on this body, to represent you through the city of Springfield. And to my colleagues who didn't support me tonight, the same goes to you. Look forward to having a good 2024 and working together. So that's it. I do have some housekeeping items to take care of tonight. The first is I'd like to tell everybody about the swearing-in ceremony that we're having on January 1st. I've made arrangements for us to have an official city council portrait. We have not done that in a number of years, and I know some of us have noticed on the hallways of City Hall that some recent additions have involved former councilors, and so we will have a formal portrait, and that'll be here in City Council chambers at 9:15. I'm hopeful that everyone can make it. Immediately thereafter, at 10 o'clock at Symphony Hall is the formal inauguration and swearing in of the council, and we do have to have an organizational meeting to adopt our rules and take formal votes for the council president and vice president, and that will take place at 12 p.m. in the city council chambers after the meeting for the inauguration at Symphony Hall. So with that, as is also our practice, I'd like to take a few moments to acknowledge the contributions of some of our colleagues who aren't going to be with us after this evening. Those are our colleagues at large, Councilor Hurst and Councilor Letterman. So let's have a round of applause for them. So each of these councilors have made tremendous contributions to the city and to the city of Springfield. And both of them have served in a variety of leadership capacities in the city, including as council president. And so I'd like to start with Councilor Hurst. The city clerk's office has coordinated and made arrangements to present you, Councilor Hurst, with this plaque. If you'd like to come up and... So this plaque is a dual honor, in honor of your service as a councilor at large from 2014 to 2023, and in your capacity as council president for 2 years, 2019 to 2020. On behalf of the city of Springfield and the Springfield City Council, we thank you for your service. One more thing. And I also got a small token of gratitude as the incoming council president for you and Councilor Letterman. This is a small piece of our gratitude for your years of service on the council, and hope you enjoy it and find a way to wear it in the future at city events. Okay. Thank you. So next we have Council President, I guess emeritus or some other term, Letterman. And we have a plaque for you, Council President, that's honoring your years of service as Council President from 21 until 23, right here. Thank you. And a similar plaque that's honoring your years of service on the City Council. I know that the contributions that you've made in the last year that were highlighted by Councilor Edwards are not the end of the story of what you've done and will continue to do for the city. So thank you very much for your contributions. And then I got the same tie clip for you too, Jesse. Here you go. So if there are any comments from the council for our two colleagues, I'd invite us all to give our flowers to the respective colleagues that are departing at this time. And is there any counselors who would like to make any comments? Councilor Govan?
Interacting with him and his wife and his family. So it's been a pleasure serving with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with both of you in the city to make sure that our city is moving forward in the direction that it needs to move. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Whitfield?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to offer congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I have had the pleasure, when I first started, you were the president, and you were on your third term, and you were handling the casino debacle, and you did a fantastic job. And then we moved to Councilor Hurst, and Councilor Hurst went through the whole COVID. He implemented almost every program that we had going for City Council. It was virtual, and me and Councilor Hurst had a little tiff when I first joined the council. We weren't always like this, but when I say I have really grown to love somebody like a brother that gives me great advice, that stands by my side no matter what, it's you. And so whatever you do, I'm going to support you. No matter where you go, I'm going to support you. When you run for mayor again, I'm going to support you. That's the love I have. And Councilor Letterman, you are not my favorite president, not my favorite person, not my favorite person, but my favorite learning president. I did not know all the rules and regulations to every single meeting until you came along. And I said, by happenstance and by a small chance that I could win, I would love for you to train me to be the president that you were. So I definitely want to give all three of you gentlemen your flowers right now. And while we are unified as a body, but we don't vote together all the time. That was the message. And I don't think that we should have to vote together for this role. I don't feel any type of way about anybody because I made my points and I said what I have to say. And always in my heart, I'm a winner. But I know that you'll do a great job, Councilor Fenton, because I've seen you in action. So whatever you guys do, I wish you the best. You're one of the most fantastic writers that I know when it comes to laws and ordinances, Councilor Letterman. So I know whatever you all do, you're going to be very successful, and I look forward to working with you, Councilor Fenton, President Fenton, next year.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
Thank you. I definitely want to give a shout out to my two colleagues. I know sometimes a lot of people see me and Justin on two sides, and not for any particular reason when it comes politically, but outside of politics, I love him. You have to, and you will love him if you ever met his son. His son is probably one of the greatest I'm telling you, if you ever meet the guy, I remember we were in, it was a person who ran against me. I won't get into names. And it was an out-of-state game. And that individual had his son. And they didn't understand because I coached his son. Me and his son was sitting there talking for hours. When you talk about when you talk, I mean, you have to meet the guy. You have to meet the guy. You have to meet the guy. When you think about the next mayor, he will be the next mayor. I can assure you that. So, I mean, one thing I can tell you about Justin is he's a family man, and his kids and his wife, they're fantastic. That's something that's important to me, and I know you do a fantastic job when it comes to your family, brother. And Jesse, you know, I'm waiting. I keep telling you, now it's time for you to start making your family. You know, your dog can't always be your baby, you know. But when it comes to a counselor or any political figure, I work in the State House, so I'm always around. I have to be around in different areas on my state job, and I can assure you, almost everywhere I go, I've always seen Jesse. Everywhere I go, I've always seen Jesse. And a lot of people don't understand that it's places where the TV isn't. So there's times where when that flood happened and everyone was displaced and it was a black neighborhood in the projects, Jesse stayed all night. He stayed all night. No cameras, nobody knows that. There are so many instances. I just had a situation where my kids were going through the process of losing their home. When I turn left and right, I already know Jesse gonna be there. This man, he isn't a pretender. He is for real. He's a person who motivates me to keep him and his mother, to keep me on the straight path to know, hey, you can do better. You can do better. And I can assure you, Jesse, you are my favorite president so far, okay? So far. And believe me, I'll never forget the work that you've done. To me, you're probably one of the hardest workers I've ever seen or witnessed, and I am going to miss you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Davila, and then we'll hear remarks from our two departing councilors.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Letterman, Jesse, today in the meeting, I was looking at you as you were conducting the meeting, and I couldn't help but to think back when you first ran for city council. I was out there helping you, holding signs, and I have really enjoyed seeing you in action in the city council. One thing for sure is that whatever it is that you put forward, I knew that it was properly vetted, that you had dotted your I's and crossed your T's. You did develop that kind of reputation. And so I give you compliments for that. I give you compliments for stepping up and being the president. As it has been said today here in this chambers, being here is not easy. Being here in this chamber is not easy. It takes a lot of emotional toll, a lot of physical toll, and being the president is even worse. And so I have to say that you always run the meeting fairly. You called it as you see it, and I can respect that. Doesn't mean that we always agree, but I can at least respect that. And so you indeed have made a great contribution to the council, and I thank you for that. And I wish you the best success in whatever it is that you do next. I have a funny feeling we haven't seen the last of you as of yet, but my compliments to that.
Thank you. Councilor.
If I may, cannot forget about just a quick minute, Mr. President-elect, my dude over here, Justin Hurst, Councilor Justin Hurst. First, let me confess to you that the rumor that Councilor Justin Hurst somehow has some sort of a spell on me, that the spell was so taking hold of me, and we voted significantly aligned together, and we stood together in many, many things, are completely false. This guy never pressured me into anything because he's that kind of counselor. Councilor Hurst, if I may call you Justin, I really enjoy how you have grabbed the bull by the horns and shaken it. You're living out of here with doing what you believe is right. And in my book, that is just respect. You know, we are not golden nuggets to be liked by everybody, but you always follow your north, and to me, that's respectful. Keep in mind that the first meeting I had in the city council, him and I also got into a little bit of a tumble. He tried to overrule me, and he got overruled by the council, by the body, because he didn't let me speak on the issue, and the body stood up and let me speak. So, Justin, you are a great man. You made your own path, and I wish you the best success in life. And I'm sure that we're going to be hearing Justin Hurst in the near future. And I'm sure your contributions will continue here in the city of Springfield. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Mr. President, thank you for the comments. God bless you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Edwards.
Councilor Hurst, thank you for your service to the city of Springfield. I wish you luck in whatever endeavor you have before you in the future. This may be the last time in this capacity that I get to speak to my baby boy, to my protege, to the gentleman that I have talked to more than anybody else other than my wife over the last decade. Jesse, you know how I feel about you, so I don't need to make a public pronouncement of how I feel. I am extremely, extremely proud of you. I'm proud of your service. I commend your family, your mother in particular, for raising you to being the man that you are. I thank your wife for sharing you with me, because I know how often she's been in the background, as my wife has been when we were talking about the business of the city. I look forward to continuing a relationship with you, and I'm just saddened to see you not in the chamber any longer, but I'm sure in some capacity you will be welcomed back into this great room. Thank you very much, Jesse, for looking to me for advice and for counsel. I've had the pleasure of having many of you in this chamber sitting in my living room or on the phone with me asking my advice, my opinion. Many of the candidates that didn't win this last election cycle also sat on my couch. And even many of those who I don't have the best relationships with today once sat on my couch as well. But my proudest moment as the city council is no piece of legislation. It's not my 8 terms on the city council. It's the fact that my protege, when I walked into the room, was the president of the Springfield City Council. Jesse, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. And I'd now invite our departing councilors to say a few words if they'd like. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over here. Well, full disclosure, I am texting the servers at the restaurant telling them to keep the food warm. Councilor Allen, and then we'll go to Councilor Walsh. Councilor Allen.
I know you want to make it shorter.
Well, it's, you know.
So a pleasure to say some words of departure for Councilor Hurst and Councilor Letterman, both who have been president of the council and done a fine job in those roles. And both of whom I have a history with, because I met Justin in, I think, the Sci-Tech Library, when you and I were both in the education field, and we had a kind of an introductory meeting, getting to know each other, et cetera, and talking about our roles in education and stuff. That was probably 20 years ago. And appreciate that. And I'll talk about Justin for a second. The leadership during COVID was really terrific, and I thought that Justin's style of how he ran a meeting, it was very crisp and clear and kind of definite. Like there was no vagueness about it. It was, and I really appreciated that. I'm not sure who had been president before that or anything. I don't really care to guess, but I thought Justin brought that type of leadership to the presidency, and you kind of knew where you were going and how you were quickly going to get there. I also think I appreciate your awareness of society and values and civil rights and things like that. I like how you challenge the status quo. And I like your sense of conviction. Those are strong characteristics, I believe, of you. And, you want to be mayor, and you wanted to be mayor, as did Councilor Letterman. It's a tough job to get up there. And I wanted to be mayor. I had to accept the fact 10 years ago that I wasn't going to do it. Time was up, kind of thing. It wasn't that I couldn't have run at that point, but I know what it's like to want to be mayor and to accept the fact finally you're not going to be. And that, just speaking about myself. And so appreciate that you had that vision for Springfield and the effort you put into it. So thank you for that. Councilor Letterman, we also go back a ways. Zeta said she went back to high school with you, but I think I went back to middle school with you. When did the stovepipe costume come into play? High school. All right. So Jesse, during the biomass passion play that biomass permeated, for those of us, Melvin, Mike, and I, who got on in 2014, it became like a subplot, the whole thing. It just never stopped. There was still a vote a month ago. You see, there was a vote a month ago. We didn't talk about it here. But it's incredible. It started in spring of 11. Here we are in December of 23. It's 12 and a half years later. And while a lot of us were convicted like you were and committed to not getting that plant built, you were our symbolic kind of leader, and no one else wore a stovepipe costume like you did. So appreciate your passion. It started in middle school or high school or Renaissance. I think you had great people that you worked with to learn community activism and good government. And I think of specifically Michael Ann Busey, who I was a big fan of, and E. Henry Twiggs, who obviously I was a huge fan of. And I was sad to not be at the street situation yesterday, but I did call Karen Twiggs beforehand and explain to her why I couldn't be there. But I'm not sure. I talked about E. Henry Twiggs in my final speech to my business ethics kids today. The final 5 minutes of business ethics today was about Henry Twiggs and what he represented as someone who just was someone that took his humanity to another level in a sense of righteousness and justice and fairness and patience. And Jesse, I think you learned a lot of good things from him. I also learned a lot of good things from him, and appreciate your wanting to be mayor and whatever your other political aspirations are. You've got a lot of good stuff you're building on. Your knowledge of, your love of government and your knowledge of all this different things about government will serve you well. I don't know what you're planning to do next, nor do I know what Justin's planning to do next, but do it with pride and with effort and humility, and go forward. You'll be successful whatever you do, both of you. Thank you.
Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President-elect there. One of the nice things, and this is to our colleagues, one of the nice things and benefits, I think, of being elected to the city council is you get to meet and work with people you might not have known. And that creates great friendships. And that is what has happened to me with Councilor Hurst and Councilor Letterman. I'm sure if we met in a different way in life, you'd still like me and I'd still like you. But working with you on the city council and getting to know your families, you are both a credit to the city, you are a credit to your family, and I know your mother and your wife, Jessie, are here. I'd like them to stand up and take a bow because they've been with him every step of the way. You can't do this job unless you have a great family behind you, and I know Justin has a great family behind him. And I'm sorry to see you guys go. And I want to say simply, I'm going to miss you both, and I hope you miss me.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Hurst, would you like to say a few words?
I'll be very brief because I know, what President-elect Fenton is trying to do as he's responsible for the bar tab.
I'm trying to make it quick. I'm trying to be fair.
The food's going to be cold.
It's been an honor and privilege to serve with all of you. You know, when we get into this business of politics, you never know what you're going to expect. One of the things that you can expect is that you're going to build great relationships with great people, and you're not always going to agree. And the idea that you can not agree and do so in a fashion that is diplomatic for the most part just speaks volume of the very body that we're serving on. So, you know, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your words of encouragement. If I could leave you with anything, and, you know, if I've done anything on the city council, I know my father said, you know, I just want you to make some noise, son. I don't care whether it's good noise or bad noise, just make some noise. And really what he was saying was, I just want, the community needs somebody that they can believe in. The community needs somebody that's gonna advocate on behalf of all of them. The community needs you to speak up. And so if I leave folks with anything, Councilor Govan, Councilor Whitfield, what you did today is what my father would say, good noise. And I'm sure what John Lewis would call good trouble. You all have challenged the status quo. I hope you continue to do so. And I hope everyone here who doesn't agree with challenging the status quo understands that someone has to do it, and it's not easy. So keep up the good work, and you all continue to work on behalf of the residents of Springfield.
Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Councilor-elect Fenton, and I'll be brief as well because I know we are all eager to get to your holiday party and deplete your coffers. But, you know, suffice it to say that it's been the honor of my lifetime, which is, as you all point out to me often, so far relatively short, to serve here in this chamber with all of you. And I think, you know, I want to say thank you to the clerk and to our staff, first and foremost. Being president has given me such a great appreciation for the work that you all do really to keep the city council and the city of Springfield running. And Councilor Walsh stole my thunder, but I want to thank my family as well. And my mom, Elizabeth, and my wife, Amila, are here today. And I think that that's not something that gets talked about as much in government and elected office. You know, we get to follow our passions here as elected officials, but in reality, it's our families that are sitting at home waiting for us. And none of us could do this without their support effectively. As you'll recall, Amila delayed our honeymoon so I could come here and vote on the marijuana zoning ordinance. You all thought I wasn't going to come, but I came, and we voted on that. And with that said, you know, what I'm proudest of is that, you know, as I depart the council, I'm leaving behind a group of people with whom we did real tangible things. You know, we really restored the Springfield Police Commission. We got them seated. We really stopped that biomass waste incinerator. We passed real laws that have a real effect on people's everyday lives in Springfield and hopefully make them better. And to the new counselors, or at least the one new counselor, Councilor Delgado and Councilor Santinello, welcome back. But if there's anything that I would leave you with, it's that the work that we do here really does matter. And so even when it can seem challenging, don't turn away. And the final thing I would say, final two things, I guess. One is I want to thank Councilor Edwards especially. Because Councilor Edwards, you've all stood with me in one way or another. We've all worked together. But Councilor Edwards, you've stood with me steadfastly. And in my quite honest opinion, I think that in so many ways for me, all the mentors that I've had who have been talked about tonight, you've been a true profile in political courage. Because the truth of the matter is you stood with me when I ran against 5 incumbent city councilors. You stood with me when I ran for city council president. You stood with me when I ran against an incumbent mayor. And you took the criticism that you received for that, most of it undeserved. Maybe sometimes you got a little bit of deserved criticism, but for the most part undeserved. And I just want to thank you for never turning away from me and for all of your support. And my final thing is the things that we accomplished, we did it as a group. The city council is only as strong as its coalitions and relationships. And I talk a lot about the story of the city of Springfield. And that story didn't begin with any of us, and it won't end with any of us. But while we're here, let's leave a mark that'll be told in the future. So thank you all for the honor to serve as your president.
Okay, seeing no further business, Madam Clerk, the City Council will stand adjourned for 2023.